so quick. We used to have so much time. We could watch the entire movie during our opening. Now it's very quick. Welcome to Generation Movie on a Monday night in May on Memorial Day weekend. First off, thanks to everybody who served. We appreciate you. Thank you for making it easier for us to enjoy our passion, which is movies. Welcome to the COBALT episode. My name is JW Colwell. Thank you for joining us. This is my good friend, Rich Drees, who's been filming his own Mission Impossible movie this weekend. Welcome, Rich. How you doing, buddy?
I'm exhausted. We spent Saturday and Sunday shooting our latest short film with Natasha and myself, pairing up with the fine folks over at Fun Pants Film Co., my friends Zach and Tony, and their new collaborator partner, Nikolai. And we had some other friends come in playing some parts, and I'm feeling pretty good about this. Yeah.
By the way, happy 45th. By the way, just so we're.
Oh yes, yeah.
Woo! So the greatest thing ever made.
In the midst of all of that, I watched Dead Reckoning, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, and Final Reckoning, as well as the one we're going to be talking about today, all in the space of, I think, 24 hours. So my brain is, I mix up plot detail.
Your brain is in full Mission Impossible mode. Well, the world is in full movie mode.
Yeah.
Apparently, the idea that what is it? The idea that I've perished is greatly exaggerated. So last summer we kind of had a bummer of a Memorial Day weekend. We had Furiosa, which should have done better, but they put a lot of money into something that, again, even the first Fury Road didn't make super amounts of money. And we had the Garfield movie, which was a mediocre kind of like meh animated movie for kids. It did fine, didn't do great. But this Memorial Day is a different beast, Rich Drees. We had this little guy at the box office battling this guy again. Tom Cruise has some bad luck against Stitch. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. The only thing that maybe can stop Tom Cruise is Stitch. Because nobody realizes, but in 2002, when the original Lilo and Stitch opened, it opened against Minority Report. So another Tom Cruise movie. Then Top Gun Maverick's record got broken by the little alien today. And he beat Mission Impossible, the Final Reckoning as well. The headlines are amazing. Memorial Day box office record breaker. Lilo and Stitch debuts to massive $183 million domestic. Mission Impossible scores a second place. It's a show. Scores series best $77 million. And the record books are it's amazing. Families flocked to see Lilo and Stitch. Ticket sales are basically it's set up. What's interesting is now I think they're calling it like, this is the setup that we needed to have a big summer at the box office. And I'm like, no, all the other movies coming out are also going to do well. But these two, it was a great Memorial Day. It brought Memorial Day back to the forefront of opening movies.
When you get people into the habit of going to the movies, or they go to the movies and they have a good experience, like both of these movies, which have been critically, well received. I have not seen Lilo and Stitch. Like I just said, I did see.
I have minor problems, but the kids had a good time with the alien.
Mad on it. I think I'm probably in the minority on that. Minority Report. Okay,
so you're a little mad on the Final Reckoning.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it did what it was supposed to do. I mean, aside from killing him, I don't know, what we could have done, but again, the big story is.
I mean, we're gonna get to Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning in our series along as we go here. Yeah. So I'll save most of my thoughts till then. But I do want to say, with the amount of callbacks this movie has, all the way back to the first film.
I was so excited that we were rewatching them all. Because my wife has been calling me a crazy person for about 2 weeks because I've been burning through them. And I'm like, honey, I've been paid back in full. Mm-hmm. Like my loyalty, if you're a loyal fan of the franchise, it pays it off in spades. Like, it's an incredible.
But my problem with all of that is there's one huge glaring omission in all the callbacks.
Okay.
We never see Mr. Jeremy Renner at all.
Oh, well, then I would up the ante and say, or Paula Patton. Paula Patton's character. Or so I would agree with that. And that's or, we were talking about last week, Maggie Q, like that group was also really kind of fun in 3. We're going to get to 4 tonight because tonight we're doing Ghost Protocol, of course, as it is the Cobalt episode. Mm-hmm. But, the Final Reckoning did very well this weekend. But what I also want to say is not only did, so that Stitch breaks the box office record held by Top Gun Maverick by almost $23 million. The only thing it's any 4-day holiday weekend that it loses to is Black Panther in 2018, which had 242. And then what was interesting is, Mission Impossible achieved for a 2-hour and 49-minute movie, $77 million on an opening week, a 5-day opening weekend is impressive. 63 over the 3-day. It beat the Mission Impossible Fallout record. So it's the number 1 debut of any of the Mission Impossible movies. And the idea that an 8th movie in a franchise can do that is pretty amazing. And it was also effective counter-programming. The idea that we have a big kids movie and a big adult movie opening on the same weekend. All the bases were covered. So theaters were packed. I went to a theater today. It was fucking jammed.
I think what helps this franchise is it's 8 movies, but over the space of 25, 27 years at this point.
Yeah, no, it's 29 because 96. Because
that's right.
The napkin, that was one of my favorite
math.
That's okay. You're good at movies. That's all that matters.
No, that's true. It's not like a case where they're cranking them out every 2 years or 3 years like clockwork.
That's the amazing thing, right? We're looking at it. It's a 5-year span between.
Yeah, they don't wear out their welcome.
They don't.
Okay, man.
No, my fucking camera's acting wonky on me. I don't want it to. Anyway,
but you're in the middle of an earthquake.
I'm playing with it. But also, another thing that happened this weekend is great holdover business as well. So the entire weekend was $322 million across all the films.
So can we call this weekend Lilo and Stitchin' Impossible?
Stitchin' Impossible is good, or Mission Stitch, or Mission Lilo, whatever you want to do. If you feel like the little girl's really good, but it's been more than a decade.
Impossible Lilo.
Rich, it's been more than a decade since this many people went to the movies over the Memorial Day frame. Prior record was 2013 with $314 million, led by Fast and Furious 6, Hangover Part 3, and Star Trek Into Darkness. So, and it's a good sign. Last year's total, we're at 322 this year. What can you want to give me a guess on last year's total with Garfield and Furiosa?
Oh Jesus, 189.
132.
Oof. I thought I was being generous, but I was being way too generous.
Way too generous. And also, these 2 movies are also playing well overseas. Lilo and Stitch did $158 million at the international box office, so it has $341.7 million already in the till worldwide. Disney only spent $100 million on it because they thought it was only going to be a Disney Plus thing, and then they only spent another $100 million on marketing efforts. So this one's well in the black. Other records that we need to talk about. It's only behind The Lion King with 191 million over 3 days, and Beauty and the Beast 174 million over 3 days. And also, just so we're clear, it has outgrossed Snow White in its opening 3 days. And Snow White had a $250 million budget. It also is getting a rare. It was bad. It's also getting an A cinema grade, which rarely happens these days. So repeat business until the next kid movie, which I think is probably going to be How to Train Your Dragon, which doesn't open until June 13th. And then Mission Impossible at another 127 worldwide. So Mission Impossible is at 200 million, but, and here's the sinner's but, right? Mission Impossible Final Reckoning cost $400 million to make. So it does have an A- cinema score, and there isn't really anything big coming out action-wise until Ballerina in a couple of weeks. So they should be able to kind of keep have steady holds. And the other thing that happened.
Go ahead. I was going to say, speaking of Ballerina, you heard about what the Lionsgate tried to pass off on critics, right?
No, I didn't. No, we'll talk about it. Save that.
Okay.
Let's finish box office. Then you can tell me. Final Destination Bloodlines earned another 19 million over the weekend. 24.5 on Monday. So that movie is at 94.6 million domestic, 187 worldwide after 2 weekends. Thunderbolts brought in another 9.5 million, with 12 million for the week for Monday included, bringing that to 171. And then Sinners was in the top 5 again at 9.1 million, 11.2 through Monday. The R-rated vampire movie is now a full-fledged box office juggernaut, no questions asked. $339 million globally, $259 domestic, $80 million international. So an amazing thing, and it looks as if the other big box office news is that Minecraft is going to fall short of the $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with Lionsgate and Ballerina?
Well, as you know, when critics get invited to screenings, they're usually done, a week or 2 weeks in advance, and the studios like to have a date that they call the embargo date. It's when you're allowed to, publish your review, a date and a time. And the reason they have the embargo date is because they can't all have, say, your Fantastic Four screening on the same day. Some cities are going to get it on a Tuesday, some might get it on a Monday. But if everybody has to wait until Wednesday, that's fair. This way, outlets that are based in certain cities don't get screwed over. And sometimes there's different embargo dates for like social reactions. Like, hey, guys, saw, whatever, Superman last night. It's fantastic. You're going to love it. Look for my full review on Wednesday or whatever. And this is not me breaking any kind of vow of silence. This was kind of a discussion over Thursday, Friday, Saturday. A number of critics on social media did specifically call out Lionsgate because when they sent out their invites for Ballerina, which is coming up, I can't say exactly when, but their screening of Ballerina is coming up. They had not a social, they had a standard review embargo date, but they also had, a social date, which on the surface seems fine. But they said positive social reactions are embargoed until this. Full reviews and negative reactions are embargoed until this.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now,
has that ever happened?
Has never happened before. Never happened before. And given the amount of blowback they got from, some critics groups.
It'll never happen again.
Individual critics. Yeah, it's not happening now. Lionsgate walked it back. They tried saying, oh, somebody, had the wrong, sent out an unproofread email or something like that. And I find that excuse to be extremely weak tea without getting into details of how that process works and how I feel it's bullshit.
Interesting way to go.
Yeah, but I am not available to go to the screening. So because the movie opens while I'm going to be at Tribeca Film Festival, I'm probably not going to see it anyways. So I wasn't planning on reviewing it. But embargoing, encouraging positive social media reviews, social media comments on a certain date, and then holding off several days until the
well, is that the kind of
does not engender confidence in me about the movie. It may be fantastic. It may be fantastic. It may be wonderful. It may be the best action movie in 10 years. But for them to have done that,
but it's just,
it was kind of sketchy. Honestly, that's just
me
speaking.
I understand. But I think it's like, isn't that the kind of thing where, so critics associations call them out on it, which is good. That's exactly what we're looking for, right? If see something, say something kind of thing. Yeah. If we're going to get the Associated Press thrown out of the room, we should all not cover Crazy
Stand up
Pants.
And say, this is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, Crazy Pants. Anyway, that is a terrible story. That makes me worried about that movie. Speaking of being worried and hating people, let's go to the next story, Rich. And okay. I'm going to give you a guess. This story is highlighted by somebody I truly fucking hate. Is
this something I may have sent you earlier in the week?
No. Maybe you did. Now I'm wondering what I missed that I should.
Okay. Well, I'm assuming this is a Warner Brothers / David Zaslav story.
Yes. Okay, but it's different. Okay, this is great.
Okay, it's you not had sent me their bond rating being downgraded.
Yeah, you had sent me that their bond rating had been downgraded to junk bond status because a man has totally ruined a perfectly functioning movie studio. Similar to what's happening with the country. Anyway, no, it is not that. It is something far funnier, and what people had hoped. And the junk rating is rating is like, what are you gonna do? Like, we're all kind of in a junk bond world right now. This is where it gets fun. There was so much excitement, Rich. The people were legit excited, where people were like, this could happen, and they announced it, and so recently there was a screening scheduled on Thursday, May 29th.
Yeah,
for Batman Forever: The Schumacher Cut, and it was scheduled to screen in an LA theater. And the update is, because we can't have fun or love things, unless it's building a widget or finding an angry fighting couple that likes to remodel together. That's just any show, by the way. I'm not specifically calling out a show, but there are at least 5 shows on the newly aforementioned named HBO Max that are just crap shows where it's just, honey, I hate you when you pick out blue paint. The planned screening of the Schumacher Cut has been canceled. Warner Brothers reportedly issued a cease and desist letter to Cinephile Video, effectively shutting down the event, stopping the film from being shown. The version of Batman Forever, the Schumacher Cut, which was apparently clocking in at 2 hours 38 minutes, was said to feature a more deliberate pace, a deeper dive into the film's psychological themes. It's a rough cut form, still needing work on visual effects and completed score. Fans were hoping this would be the beginning of a release schedule, and it's been overdue. We've had, Zack Snyder whine and get his director's cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say that
it might be good news.
I kind of understand why Warner's did this, because the Schumacher cut has only existed kind of like as a bootleg that's been kind of floating around in places if you know where to look. So to kind of publicly exhibit it and advertise that you're publicly
Let me ask you,
exhibiting
do you know where to look? The way you said
I
that?
have not been able to find it, but I am sure it is available. I haven't really done a deep dive to look for it though.
If you do find it, I would like to know where it is.
Of course.
Okay.
But since it hasn't been officially released or made officially available, Warner Brothers kind of has a legal duty to go to go ahead and
you're tired. You're overtired.
To go ahead and kind of put the kibosh on this. Now, Warner Brothers is also seeing that there was a lot of interest and excitement in this. Now, I don't think the Schumacher Batman films are great shakes at all, but I would be interested in seeing an alternate cut of either of them just to see, you know, could they have been better? Or, you know, what decisions
could they have been less campy? Could it have been, you know,
what decisions were made to make it
yes
what we got? You know, so from an academic standpoint, I'm always interested in alternate cuts, even if it's that guy's cut. You know what I'm saying? But as horrible
and like
as
I said, it's like they cut Batman Forever. Who knows? They cut Batman Forever. Who knows? Maybe he was going to make a dark Batman or Robin too, and he was just like, "Fuck it, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take 2 of these and call me in the morning." You know, it could just be that it forever altered his 2 Batman movies.
Yeah.
Although Joel Schumacher,
like I said,
it's theoretical. It's all theoretical, but it doesn't.
From a historical standpoint, I'm really interested.
I'm super interested.
There's 2 versions of The Big Sleep that are out there. You know, the Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall movie, and they're fascinating to watch back to back.
I cannot get over the lack of joy David Zaslav must have in his life. Like I know.
Well, I don't think this was he stamped off on it, or you know, he heard about it. And,
I'm just saying, like,
picked up his phone and screamed.
I think what we're gonna see is it's gonna come down from high that all of a sudden, now that there's interest in it, it'll somehow find its way into a 4K release, maybe even a theatrical release. Although they're getting a little bit away from how important the movie would be in the wake of Val Kilmer's death, right? I mean, it would be if it was a better, like, because I'm not saying he's better than Michael Keaton. I would never say that in a million years. I've always viewed the Val Kilmer take on Batman. I liked his Bruce Wayne. I thought his Batman was a little goofy, right? But I liked his Bruce Wayne a lot. So I think there's potential there. But I just think it's funny that every time somebody tries to have joy, David Zaslav will find a way to just
I hate the dude.
The joy right out of you. But I know he's right.
I'm not saying he's specifically personally responsible for this, but hopefully somebody at Warner Brothers
is paying
attention enough to say, oh, there is interest in this. Maybe we should actually look into doing this.
So wait, if you're saying if somebody said there is interest in something and they went to David Zaslav and he might look at it and go, there's interest, we should release it. Or should we take a giant tax write-off on Coyote versus Acme and Batgirl? And you know what I mean? Like the reason I'm blaming Zaslav is because I think it's one of those things where he could provide hope to people that they might get to see it. I still think he'd go, fuck it. No. Okay, some comments. Just bad decisions. Widgets. He makes widgets. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Joe Ridgely. Good evening, friends. Good evening, Ken McKernan. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're feeling well. Wife and I saw Lilo and Stitch this weekend. She enjoyed it. I wasn't impressed. Okay, before I get to my review on Lilo and Stitch, tomorrow night on Loud and Nerdy, because I think I'm going to get into a fight with Kyle over it, and Kyle and his wife Missy. I'm going to tell you right now, I saw it with a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, 2 9-year-olds, a 7-year-old. I was sitting next to the kids. And midway through, I had a 7-year-old ask me, can the government take away kids from their parents? And the answer to that in Lilo and Stitch is a resounding yes. It's a resounding yes. Rumor going around that James Gunn put an end to it so he didn't interfere with his new world building.
I would say
he's not. I just know stories about James Gunn like that. Like that rumor going around sounds like a Zack Snyder person talking about James Gunn.
I won't disagree with you there, but logically though, this was like a one-off screening in LA, so I don't see how that would somehow be a giant monkey wrench in what he's trying to do with his new DCU.
Yeah, and actually, to be honest,
it doesn't pass a smell test for me. And like I said before, it's really a case where Warner's lawyers had to put the kibosh on it. They had a responsibility to. So I don't. If James Gunn likes the idea of getting the Schumacher cut out, he may champion it. But I don't think he would actually kind of really step up if somebody else said, hey, let's get this
all
out
of
there.
the stuff we've heard about, we've heard about Gunn is that he's collaborative, that he doesn't step on the toes of other filmmakers. If it's available, I'll find it. Thank you, Joe. It was all to sell Happy Meal toys. Well, I mean, we sold a hell of a lot of Batman Returns cups. I have all of them, so we sold a hell of a lot of those. With Batman Returns.
What Tim Burton pretty much said why he got out of the Batman business, because he didn't want to be making
I will say Batman Forever. Two things. Batman Forever is kind of having a moment right now, also because there's a Kenner line. The Kenner line for the Batman Forever toys is suddenly back in stores. Also, my aunt at a recent flea market or garage sale found all of the glasses, all of the Batman Forever glasses, and they're so much cooler than I remember. Because so all of them it was Batman, Robin, Riddler, Two-Face. Okay, but the cool thing is the handles. All of the handles are accentuated by the character on the face of the cup, so they're fully glass little mugs. And then, for example, the Two-Face is so fucking cool. It's a nickel. It's the quarter in various stages. The handle is the quarter going around and flipping over. The Robin is the Robin logo, like on the corner of like a hinge. Batman is the Bat logo, and the Riddler, the full cup thing, is the cane. The Riddler's cane. They are beautiful. They are so beautiful. And Joe, I will say something else about Joe. Joe sent me the most incredible thing.
Those are, I just Googled them and
they're amazing. They are super neat, and they're heavy glass too. They're not light.
Yeah.
They're very reminiscent of the Flintstones cups that came out.
You drop them, you hurt your toe.
Yes. Or they're shattering and you're never going to be able to find the pieces. Joe also sent me a link. They're apparently doing, I don't know what company it is, but one company is doing a 78 Superman set of figures that are like Kenner sets of figures in the 70s. So they're in the bubbles, but it's Superman, so it's Christopher Reeve Superman with they all come with something. Superman comes with the kryptonite necklace. Mm-hmm. Right, that Lex puts on him. Lex is in the full outfit when Superman goes to meet him, like the outfit with the the ascot and everything, and comes with removable hair. And he also comes with, it's the first time Gene Hackman's ever been as Lex has been put in a figure. He also comes with a copy of the Daily Planet that the Superman headline, right? It Flies or whatever the hell it is. Then there's a Lois Lane, and she's never been in a figure. There are two Jarrells. There's Jarrell in Fortress of Solitude form, or the form he has when he puts him in the ship. And there's also Jarrell with the stick from the trial.
Oh, cool.
The black outfit with the S, the white S,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have General Zod, but no Nana Ursa yet. So I'm hoping for a Nana Ursa, and then the box, the display box is basically it's the Superman logo with the multicolored Superman, like with silver S across the red, white, the red, blue, and yellow, coming from the back of it. They're so gorgeous. I told Joe I'm actively looking for them now. So, but that's let's also finish one last thing. We lost somebody pretty big. Rich, you want to start?
Yeah. Over the weekend, we got word that honestly, the great writer Peter David passed away. He was primarily worked in comics. Best known for an incredible run, like 11 years on the Incredible Hulk. He also worked, on some of the X-Men titles over at DC. He did a miniseries called The Atlantis Chronicles, which kind of detailed the history of the kingdom that Aquaman's from. That is unparalleled. It's fantastic. It's fantastic, just fantastic. Then he did a run on Aquaman. That was the infamous Aquaman loses his hand to some piranhas and gets a harpoon for a hand for a while. That was kind of divisive. But he was also known for his love of Star Trek, his work on Star Trek comics at DC and elsewhere. He wrote Star Trek novels. Imzadi and IQ are fun books. They kind of go beyond just being tie-in novels into just being good, solid books to read on their own. He wrote 2 episodes of Babylon 5. He wrote a couple of movies. He co-created with Bill Mumy the Nickelodeon series Space Cases, which ran for 2 years. And that show introduced the world to Summer Glau, who then went on to be on Firefly.
Yeah, he was very popular, and he
was a great guy.
Not
I
only
interviewed him a couple of times for local paper, but he had some health troubles the last couple of years. He had a stroke, and then just complications from that, and
was recently placed on a ventilator. Had
he
trouble breathing, clearing his throat, doing all kinds of stuff.
And his family has been having a real hard time with these medical bills. And I mean, okay, Peter David created Spider-Man 2099, and Miguel O'Hara, who is a character with the antagonist in the second animated Spider-Man film that we have from Sony, that made several hundreds of millions of dollars, is his character that he created, and neither DC nor Marvel, nobody there was able to reach out and say, hey, you created so much value for our company beyond the normal payments and the normal royalties and residuals from the books when they get reprinted that you are contractually due. But so this is kind of almost the flip side to the Batman Forever thing. I feel that yes, you paid him contractually what is owed him, but I think maybe morally or ethically, this
is probably the biggest.
There's a desire. There's a push for something that helps comics creators in these times of trouble. Yes, there's Heroes Initiative, which is a nonprofit, but
these movies are making so much money, Rich.
Yeah, the nature of the freelance business doesn't allow for ongoing health care.
He also did Young Justice. He did, and you think about how great that show was and how well received it was. He did Captain
he did
Marvel
the comic
stuff
that became the show. Yeah,
that's what I mean. So I mean, there are so many things.
I'm super sad that he's gone because he was a great guy. I have a bunch of stuff that I got signed by him at various cons. Every time I met him, it was a joy. I grieve for his family. His weekly column in Comics Buyer's Guide back in the 90s called But I Digress was an early influence on my own writing. And I'm just mad that this is yet again another comics creator who
passes away destitute. Passes away destitute.
Their family absolutely destitute. We've seen it with like Bill Mantlo, and there's a bunch of other ones over the years, and it just kills me. It breaks my heart that this happened, and I really, really, really wish the comics industry would get their shit together about this.
Well, not just I think it's more than the comics industry. To be honest, it's a lot of these creations.
If we had healthcare for all in this country, because we're the only civilized country that can't get that shit together.
We digress. You want Medicare for all? We're not going to have Medicaid for all. So it's like we got to pump the brakes. We're not going to have any of it. But it's a sad situation, and I think it's the kind of thing where these people brought value where there was none. They created and made things better and did things and were able to like live their dream in many ways. And then the end of their lives are like, you hear it all the time about comic book creators who are like, who don't even get invited to the premieres of the movies and that's so fucking superfluous to being able to have a happy life and just getting a little bit of scratch so that they can get by. And, I created something
but
that people loved,
you need to have that acknowledgement though, because it's just right. It's just right to acknowledge these people for their contributions.
Well, we acknowledge him.
But as we wrap this up, though, I just want to say Peter David's family does have a GoFundMe out there. So if you have it in your heart and you want to donate a few bucks, there's still probably a couple of $100,000 in debt from what I hear. So if you have a few bucks, every bit helps. Send it to their family's way. Send some good thoughts and to the family as well.
That's a great way to start and a good time to end and start our thing. Zod comes with the Phantom Zone glass. I forgot about that. Lois comes with a little pen and notepad. Anyway, so let's get to why we're here tonight. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This is where the franchise jumps, right? It jumps in quality. It jumps in how they're being shot. It jumps in. It's still a different director. It's the fourth movie in a franchise with a different director, right? But this, production on this was very spotty because the third movie was critically well received, but not beloved by by whatever. So Mission Impossible 3 earned less than its predecessors at the box office. Its critical reception was better than both of its predecessors. Paramount clearly wanted to keep developing another Mission Impossible movie, but this doesn't come out till 2011, Rich. So we're talking 5 years between Mission Impossible 3 and Ghost Protocol. So basically they hire two writers, Josh Applebaum, Andre Nemec, to write the screenplay in 2009. So even we're 3 years off, right? J.J. Abrams says, I can't direct because I have other stuff going on. I'm busy, But he decides he's going to produce. And then by March 2010, they hire Brad Bird, who, not necessarily known for his movie, like his live action movies, but Brad Bird, for anybody in the know, let me just run down the list. Writer and batters included. Writer-director on The Iron Giant. Writer-director on The Incredibles. Writer-director on Ratatouille. Writer-director on Tomorrowland, The Incredibles 2, Ray Gunn, which is all in prep now. So he's a good director. He's not somebody that is well known for making action movies, but he comes aboard. They bring Tom Cruise back. And then, they go through a series of working titles. They don't know what the hell they're going to call it. But then they decide to drop them. This is the first of the Mission Impossible movies where they drop the number and then they bring the number back later. But they drop the number.
I wonder if dropping the number also kind of helps keep the franchise fresh in mind. Where it's just like, oh, it's Ghost Protocol. It's not like, oh, Jesus Christ, it's the fourth one of these motherfuckers.
Nobody wants to go see 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you are on fire tonight. But that's true, and I think there is something to that, right? Mission Impossible 4 does not sound nearly as cool as Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. It just doesn't.
No.
And so then the casting, we get Jeremy Renner is brought on. He's brought on August 2010. Basically, they bring him in, and widely reported through Hollywood that it's a potential lead, so that Tom decides to leave the franchise, which by the way would be over his cold dead body. That's why we're bringing him in. They also talk about other casting. Lauren German was up for the part. Kristen Kruk was up for a part, and Paula Patton was up for a young female operative. And so she obviously was the one that won that out. Then, September 28th, Josh Holloway comes aboard, and it is a perfect representation of J.J. Abrams producing and getting his people out and about into his stuff. And so, and then Leah Sado was announced as the female villain. So it all kind of comes into focus. Film is shot on IMAX cameras, and Bird came up with this concept that has now started to take a huge foothold in Hollywood, right? But this was one of the first movies where, if you even look at the poster I have at the top of the screen, it and I'm going to put it up so that everybody can see it. The poster basically is, two major places for it's IMAX and also down the bottom it's IMAX and XL, Cinemark XL. So the idea, Brad Bird brings the idea to the table that if we're filming, let's use IMAX cameras. Let's not do 3D, because 3D we know is junk, because everything can be upgraded to 3D and it doesn't add anything to it. But let's try to make it movie going, bring a level of showmanship back. Let's get away from the multiplexes. Let's try to put this movie into theaters and film it in a way so that the bigger the theater, the better, right? Principal photography takes place October 2010 to March 19th, 2011. So that's what, a 6-month shoot? November, December, January, February, March, 6 months. And they film all over the world. Budapest, Mumbai, Prague, Moscow, Vancouver, Bangalore, Chennai, Dubai, all over the place. So, there's ILM is used for the special effects, especially the solo climbing with the sticky gloves, my favorite. And basically they digitally erased the cables in post-production. So he was tied up, but it was still dangerous, still on the side of a fucking building. Like that's the other thing about this franchise. Like, not only do things get upgraded and more from the Mission Impossible 3, which was kind of low-key 3-character, kind of like cat and mouse, right? A little bit Alias, a little bit J.J. Abrams-ish. This one, everything's big, loud, bigger, stronger, faster, right? They shoot in Vancouver. They shoot all over the place. And then what I think is the lasting effects and legacy of the franchise, something happens. In the middle of production, Cruise brings in screenwriter Christopher McQuarrie, who he worked on Valkyrie with in 2008. And although McQuarrie doesn't get credit on the screenplay, doesn't get a screenplay credit, he had said the script had these fantastic action sequences in it, but there was a mystery in it that was very complicated. What I did was clarity. The mystery had to be made simpler. And so the franchise is reborn. And like you were saying at the beginning of our little jaunt in this franchise, there's the first four actually are all kind of like director showcases / whatever, but the fourth one, Ghost Protocol, is where it all kind of begins to be bigger, stronger, faster.
It's where we start to see like an internal continuity outside of just Ethan Hunt and Ving Rhames, and then starting in 3, Benji. We're starting to introduce more. We're seeing the return of his wife from the previous film. In the tag sequence, we see the return of actor Andreas Wisniewski. He plays the contact for the arms dealer, but he was also working for arms dealer Max back in the very first film. So we're starting to, and he doesn't even encounter Ethan or anything like that. But it's just adding that little spice to the soup that helps. It makes it feel like, oh, okay. And then starting in the next over the next couple of films, we're going to see like villain characters carry over. Until like really the most recent one is a colossal, hey, remember this person here, and they all kind of, it works. It's the theme of the of that movie is about how the choices that you make in your life define who you are.
What happened? Yeah, who you are.
So to see a lot of these people coming back, or maybe a relative of a person is revealed, which I was kind of hoping for something. I'll talk to you about that afterwards, but because it's a huge spoiler and I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it now.
I'm not going to lie to you. I wouldn't. It is a spoiler, but I wouldn't mind if that person led the new franchise. Like, I think he's good enough. If they wanted to go that route, they could.
Yeah, I'll explain how I thought that should have happened.
Or even a show on Paramount Plus. Anyway, also I want to give a big secret shout out to all of the people that went to college at California Institute of the Arts, because the A113 is incorporated several times in this movie. It's on Hanaway's ring during the flashback sequence, and it's also the call sign that Ethan Hunt uses, Alpha 113. That, of course, Rich, is a referral to basically it's the classroom used by graphic design and character animation students at the California Institute of the Arts.
Mm-hmm.
I've now noticed it in way more movies after I did some research, and it's fucking everywhere. Anyway, they released a teaser trailer that has, basically him scaling the tallest building in Dubai, the Burj Khalifa. They presented IMAX footage of the film, the invitation-only crowd of opinion makers and journalists, and an IMAX theater. And they include the desert chase scene in Dubai. So, basically it it willed itself into existence with these great people involved. And then production's quiet, no fighting, no nothing, because it's a Tom Cruise movie. So everybody's happy. I heard the greatest Tom Cruise story in my life. Pom Clementif, who played Mantis and who plays the
Paris.
What was that?
The character's name is Paris.
Well, no, but Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, Paris in this.
Yeah, Paris okay, right. I was doing. So that she plays Paris in Mission Impossible.
Which is funny because in the original TV series there was a character named Paris, but he was a master of disguise. That was she's just a scary clown / assassin. Yeah, she's super killy, and she's really, really fun in the Final Reckoning. But she apparently got along very well with Tom Cruise, and near the end of filming said at some point to Tom Cruise, and this was a story that was on the Tonight Show or one of the late night shows, said, I really would like, I've seen you do some skydiving stuff. I would really like to skydive and get my skydiving license. And his end of the shoot gift for her included 25 skydiving lessons so she could get her
her
Oh wow.
her skydiving license, and she then announced that she had been on 200 jumps since.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's become her favorite hobby is jumping out of planes. And she goes, I only hope to be as good as him one day. And that's the thing, like, with as crazy as Cruise is portrayed, all the production stuff and all the production stories that we've gone on in these 4 movies, nobody fights. There are no fights on a Tom Cruise movie. We haven't, like, it's a weird thing, you know what I mean? Like, and I know he's controlled. I know that there's a semblance of control to his life, but I just think it's one of those things where
I would say there was some fights on Dead Reckoning when he caught people not masking up properly during COVID.
But that was deserved, not a bad call. So it opens, Rich. It opens on, let's see, I have the date here. It opens on December 7th, 2011. So in the Christmas, a little bit different opening date. December 11th, 2011. December 7th, 2011. It opens and it does pretty well, Rich. So opening weekend, 12.7 million, not huge. The legs on the movie are seven weeks, average legs. And then it opens on 425 theaters, and then it eventually opens out to 3,555 theaters. It plays all throughout the holiday, and it ends up it plays the entire holiday season. It has a production budget of 145, so right in the middle, not crazy, and it ends up grossing 209 million domestic, 485 internationally, for a total of $694 million. The adjusted inflation box office amount, domestic box office, is $298 million. So as we make newer movies, as we see newer movies, that adjusted rate is going to get much lower as we progress because it's less time between. But 694 is where this one ends. Well ahead of Mission Impossible 3 by a grand scale. And then when it's released on DVD and Blu-ray, it grosses in domestic, just another $50 million for Paramount, that's a lot of money for a movie that the third movie didn't do great. It did okay. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Got a comment. Mission Impossible self-destruct in 5. It doesn't. None of them Actually, 5 is going through them recently, Jasper. I'm going to be honest with you. 5 might be my favorite of all of them.
Are you sure you just forgot to put 5 seconds at the end of that?
I don't know. I'm taking the comment. I'm running with it. I think Rogue Nation might be my favorite one in the rewatches. Rogue Nation is flawless. Like Rogue Nation has very little flaws, and Fallout is also those two right in the center of the franchise are kind of like
and that to kind of jump ahead. The last thing we hear in this movie is him accepting a new mission and he's being told about a cartel called the Syndicate, and that's the Rogue Nation basically.
That's
the issue
the Syndicate,
and that leads into Fallout. Yeah. This is the start of like the big continuity,
the big arc.
It becomes ceases to be a episodic Bondy.
One bad guy at a time, and becomes an arc of you're going to be fighting. You've actually been fighting the Syndicate, and in the next movie you're going to fight the Syndicate, and then in Fallout you're going to deal with the ramifications of you fucking around and finding out with the Syndicate, and it becomes beyond a film, like an action franchise. And I had talked with some of the other people on our network, and they're like, I don't think they're that good, and I'm like, I think you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Maybe I need to go back and give them a rewatch.
And that's the thing, like, I did the full rewatch because I knew I wanted to make sure I saw all of them before I saw the new one, right? And I will tell you that I went in and I felt so justified to wasting 14 hours of my life in the last 3 weeks. I felt so fucking justified watching the movie, telling my wife, oh, that's this, that, and she's been watching, but not obsessing like me, but she's been watching at night when we put the kids to bed, the nephews to bed, or help with whatever. And she comes in, she's like, "You're watching Mission Impossible again?" I'm like, "I'm watching a different one. This is 5. This is 6." Critical response then and now. Okay, so we use Rotten Tomatoes just as a way to get a gauge, and this is also a turning point in the franchise. Up until this point, the Mission Impossible movies were not super well, like they were fine. They were all, tomatoes, except maybe 2 was under the radar. But this is where things jump, right? And it goes to 94 on Rotten Tomatoes with 250 reviews. The popcorn meter's at 76, and you start to see this franchise not only achieving box office success, but the people reviewing them for a living start going, hey, we need to start paying attention, because Cruise and the people he's surrounding himself with on this particular franchise, and it turns out it becomes any of the franchises that he really cares about, right? Like Top Gun Maverick or whatever. When he finds somebody that he feels is talented, Cruise sticks with those people, and just kind of like keeps on using them. So this is one of the best reviewed sequels of all time, right? 94%. Critics, like stuff you read here in the critics, the action scenes are huge, sometimes jaw-dropping, and Bird's visual style makes it easy to overlook the sheer unbelievability of some of the sequences. The Dubai skyscraper scene is worth the ticket price, right? Or the prolonged fight scenes, car demolitions, and long-distance jumping stretch the boundaries of believability, but sign me up. Ghost Protocol is a frenetic journey that features amazing action sequences and managed to entertain with a fresh plot. Best of its kind is bandied about from the franchise here. And what I would say is, this is like from the Moscow sequence to all of the Dubai there's a Dubai sandstorm sequence that is thrilling. It's amazing. Like, people talk about the Dubai and you immediately go to the building, but I rewatched the sandstorm sequence, Rich. It is so expertly done from beginning to end. From has trademark running. It has, Cruise eventually having to get a burqa to try to cover the sand. The bad guy grabbing a burqa, trying to cover the sand, and ends in the most delightful way. And, Cruise is good.
There's an interesting note that I caught. First of all, I love Michael Giacchino's most of his scores. I don't think his Mission Impossible arrangement theme. I
think he's afraid of it.
I think it's a little too busy. He's trying to add too much into it.
I think he's afraid of it.
Very clean and simple. That's why it works. But he's putting in a lot of different percussion and all sorts of stuff. And
I think he's afraid of it. I think he's simply afraid of that it being that simple is the key.
Yeah. But for the sandstorm sequence, there's a whole section of that is just no music whatsoever. And I don't know if that was his suggestion or Brad Bird's, but I think that really made it much more effective. As they're running around, it's only once they get back into cars and stuff like that we get music again.
Yeah, it's very effective because
during my rewatch, I was like,
you're in the elements with that.
Yeah.
You're in the element with Ethan Hunt. There's no music, and it works. That kind of stuff are really intricate little things. Then you do the Dubai skyscraper sequence, which is it's mind-droppingly fun, and then you bring the Simon Pegg character back. He comes back into the fold, and he becomes a beloved member of the team. Like, he becomes maybe your favorite member of the team. The two side Cruise people are like, if you said, if you ask a Mission Impossible fan, other than Tom Cruise, who do you love in the franchise? I think a lot of people would say Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg. I think they come up a lot. You know what I mean? Like, as people, as characters we grow to love, and Pegg has a great moment where he's playing a guy who's delivering tea, and he has to steal the diamonds, and he has like a hand that's a fake hand, and it's very elaborate, sleight of hand, comic timing kind of stuff. And he gets it. He understands that he's here to blow off steam so that Tom Cruise can climb up the side of a fucking building, right? And that's the thing. The screenplay is pretty tight. It deals with a guy that he's a theorist, right? So he's the worst kind of person. He doesn't actually do anything. He kind of just believes in theories. He's nicknamed COBALT, hence the name of the episode tonight. And basically he's decided that he needs to drop he thinks he needs to drop a nuclear bomb on something in an effort to make people realize how good we have it, right? He's going to kill a bunch of people because he just thinks it's the right thing to do. The Moscow sequence is invigorating. It's really well done. There's a whole elaborate sequence with a 10-15 minute sequence with a 10-minute sequence with a fake wall that is one of my most enjoyable moments in the franchise, I think, because it's a little bit science fiction-y, but it feels kind of Bondish in a way, but men on a mission kind of a thing. It just hits right what I want a Mission Impossible movie to be. Using it's basic gadgets. Stuff plus crazy gadgets, but it's like the original show, right? Where they're faking things out. You're seeing things not as they are or what they could be. And also, I'll tell you what sets the scene apart. I'll tell you what, in the magic of the rewatch of Ghost Protocol, it's the clicker. Oh, the little clicker that Benji uses, where he's doing the clicker where it's like
the water droplets.
The water droplet thing. It's a clicker, and it sounds like a water droplet. It sets the scene up perfectly. And also, it's sleight of hand. It's Obi-Wan making a fucking sound over there, so you don't look over here at me turning off the tractor beam. It's perfect in that regard. The script is really good. The villain believes in his cause, which is always a good thing to have. And the villain here, I saw some interesting stuff about top villains in the franchise. I like Michael Nyqvist. I don't know that Michael Nyqvist playing Kurt Hendricks, who's Cobalt, could hang with Tom Cruise in a fight. He does. I don't know if it could happen. But like I said, he's a good actor who kind of, relishes the evil role, and he has a henchman, and he wears a white suit, and he acts, and it's great. And they build up a little thing with Renner, who's like kind of an analyst, but he used to be in the field. And we find out that Renner's character was the person that was supposed to be guarding Julia from 3. So it's the beginnings of like detailed things where things are intricately woven into the screenplay. Also, Paula Patton is really good. I actually don't know why she never came back. I don't know what happened there, but she's really good because she's somebody that's lost one of her IMF cohorts to an assassin that they tracked down in Dubai. And Cruise is great. Cruise is very good here as everything starts falling down around him. All of the past sins, coming back to haunt him and all these different things. We're off the grid. We have to go to Dubai. We have to find this guy. We have to stop him. He's going to launch a nuclear code. How's he going to do it? He's going to go to Dubai and basically, steal a satellite so he can fire off the Russian nuclear codes that somehow he got, right? And the movie ends in a parking garage that is one of the upwardly mobile parking garages where the case is being thrown around while we're trying to get to the end and get to 1 second. And I was thinking
those Carvana automobiles.
The Carvana, we have one. We have one in Orlando. I always want to see the giant coin. I just want to know what the giant coin looks like. But yeah,
I mean, that was my chuckle as I was rewatching it this afternoon. It was like, oh, it's the Carvana car vending machine. Cool.
Well, and it's like it's fun and it's intricate, and it comes down to the wire as always. But it also has some great moments where, like, Renner gets to be fun Renner-ish. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has good things. They have good things to chomp into. And it's the beginnings of where we're headed, right? It's the beginnings of where we're going. And this arc is absolutely spectacular. Probably the best of the franchise.
And there's a very good argument to be made for that. I want to kind of get through the entire rewatch to have it all fresh in my mind.
Yeah, the 4, 5, and 6 are the 4, 5, and 6 to me are the crux of the franchise being built up, and then 7 and 8 are kind of like
the capstone.
And the whipped cream and cherry on top, right? Like,
one thing I like about the ending on this is how they basically underplay or undercut.
It's bittersweet.
Like a typical. No. The finale of the last action sequence.
Oh,
how they kind of comedically undercut the usual bravado of the ending of a sequence like that, where he's like, mission accomplished, and he pushes the button, but everybody else isn't ready yet, so they're like still scrambling to make the connection.
There's a whole thing. There's a whole thing. I agree. The tone is amazing.
It's hilarious, I think.
I think it's all Macquarie too. I think it's Macquarie, and what I would say is the reason I think it's Macquarie is because he writes the next bunch, and they're all very tongue in cheek, but also like there's a moment where Benji is like trying to get the satellite, and Paula Patton's been shot, and Renner's gone to kill the guy that's cutting the power, and Benji goes, okay, so all you're going to do is put this here, put that there, put this over here, and this here, and we all have to do it when Ethan presses the button. And Paul Patton, who's been shot, looks at him and goes, uh-huh. And he goes, I'm going to go check on him, and I'll be right back. And it's just like this, like, yeah, that's how it works in the Mission Impossible franchise. That's how we do things, and this is the beginning of greatness for this franchise. I think I like Rogue Nation and Fallout better, but it's only because this movie sets it up so perfectly to tie in and just kind of like where you were saying earlier that you thought the Final Reckoning tied in too much. The tying in here is absolutely perfect, and the ending of the movie where Renner finally kind of comes clean and is like, he's the entire movie. We played with the impression that Julia from 3 has been murdered. The reason Ethan has come back is because Julia has been murdered. And the reason he started out in a prison in this, by the way, prison sequence, fantastic. We didn't talk about it, but Dean Martin trying to escape, and also Benji and Simon Pegg with the fucking like Chaplin-esque, I'm not going to open the door, Ethan. I'm not going to do it. You don't have to go there, Ethan. We have a way to get you out of here. And so he can save his friend, and it ends up being the connection that gets him where he needs to go, because Ethan doesn't leave people behind he likes. It's the beginning of that too. But it's just really fun, and the tying, the idea that Renner finally admits it to Cruz at the end. They're sitting at a bar having a beer, and it's basically as Cruz is saying, I want you all to come back and be part of my IMF force. And Renner's like, I think I'm done in the field, Ethan. I need to tell you something. I need to own up. I was the one that allowed your wife to be kidnapped and murdered, and I don't think you want me being part of your IMF force. And it's just this, it's a good teeth in character moment where he gets to chew down a little bit, and Cruz is like, did you see her die? With a cool wink and a nod that's from like the first 3 movies, What did you see? Did you see her body? Well, no, I we saw the body in the garbage, it was charred beyond belief or whatever the fuck he says, right? and then Cruz is just watching, and into a perfect camera shot of Cruz, Renner sitting at the bar, and Michelle Monaghan tracking behind them around the square, and Renner, Cruz like kind of motioning, like looking this way, and Renner's like, "What are you looking at?" And he sees her, and Renner like stops for a second, and he's like, "You do a good job. I want you on my team. It's okay. It's okay." And he goes, "I made the choice to say that she was dead because I put her in harm's way too many times." And Renner
will hang around for one more movie.
Yes, and Renner picks up his phone and walks out, and then Cruz has a really great moment with Monaghan where it's just two actors looking and smiling at each other. It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet and just a wave, a brief wave, and she waves back, and she's shocked a little bit, but she's on her way to drinks with coworkers, and it's really nice. It's a great ending. It's and then it cuts to the next thing. Him getting the syndicate. The syndicate is something we've had. The syndicate mission, we've had our eye on this group of we don't know what it is, and we will find out what it is when we get to the next movie next week. Legacy and franchise. So the Christopher McQuarrie tie-in, I think, is the biggest legacy franchise thing here, because McQuarrie comes on after working with him on Valkyrie. They worked so well on Valkyrie. Valkyrie, by the way, for anybody paying attention, is an underrated Tom Cruise movie. Very hard to have underrated Tom Cruise movies, but I think that's one of them. I think that's one of. Yeah. I think it's a really great kind of. I don't want to say Dirty Dozen-ish, but kind of like reverse Dirty Dozen, kind of like one guy on a mission, trying to do the right thing. I think McQuarrie is the key here. McQuarrie knows the tone, understands how to play with the characters. Of course, you add Renner, who's a real interesting at this point. He's coming off Marvel, working with, doing all those things, and he's hot as hell. You know what I mean? Like I don't mean hot, like he's hot. Don't get me wrong. But I mean hot in the sense that he was like, he could do any franchise, right? Coming off of Marvel, and he chooses to do this one because there's potential. Pegg firmly establishes that Benji will clearly be part of this mission going forward. What else? You see anything else? Any other franchise things that are Michael Giacchino leaves?
Yeah, I mean, nothing that we haven't touched on already, in terms of it's really starting to world build, with its own continuity. We are seeing, people coming back. It makes it feel, like a smaller community, like a very, there's some spy movies where it's like, it just seems like everybody in the world has to be a spy because we never see the same person twice in anything. Some franchises like that, but I like how here it's like, oh yeah, this guy who worked for Max in the first one, he's still running around doing his arms dealer thing, and it didn't have to be the same actor, didn't have to be the same character.
Didn't have to be the same continuity, right?
With Tom Cruise, so
it's a continuity thing. Yeah. Where they go back and Cruise rewards people who are. Again, I have never felt more rewarded as a fan than this weekend. I'm not going to lie to you.
It feels like, and just having that character here in 4, when we go 2 more forward to 6 is when Vanessa Kirby's character shows up, who is the daughter of Max.
And she's doing the same shit her mom does.
Yeah.
Yes. So and then it ties into a character from the original. And
there's a through line there.
Yeah, it makes sense. The through line makes sense. I think it's a perfect place to end, is that the through line begins here. We will see the through line all the way through to the end of the franchise, all the way through to 8. We'll see a through line. And the through line will continue next week.
This is where it really picks up steam.
Yeah. And like I said, I think in rewatching, 4, 5, and 6 are where I came out of the franchise going, I don't care when it comes out. Although the funny thing is, this is a personal thing, but the funny thing is, I was sick when Dead Reckoning came out. So I almost missed Dead Reckoning in theaters. I had a bad infection, and I willed myself to the theater to make sure I could see it. But we will find a new foe. Actually, maybe my favorite foe. As we look at Rogue Nation next week, we will run into a man that is. We will have some of the more impressive stunts in the history of the franchise. We will, including this ridiculous fucking thing on the side of a plane, where we get a little bit crazy. Rogue Nation will be next week, and we'll also see the introduction of Rebecca Ferguson's character, who will stick through a few of the movies. Yeah, 3 movies. Return of Ving Rhames, Return of Jeremy Renner, the introduction of Alec Baldwin as a CIA agent and head of the CIA, and also Angela Bassett as head of one of the CIA heads. So we will see a lot of things coming up next week in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Rich, where can people find you and your stuff? I know you just did a brief thing, 45 years of The Empire Strikes Back. 45 of the greatest Star Wars movie ever made.
All of my writing can be found at.
Fight me on it.
I'm not you.
Not you. I'm talking about anybody. Not you. You and I are pacifists.
Anyways, all of my writing can be found at filmbuffonline.com. We also have a Facebook page where we let you know about news stories and reviews that go up there, as well as we fill it in with some like history posts and a few other fun things here and there. We also have a Twitter page for Filmbuff Online. You can find us there at Filmbuff Online. You can find me on the socials at FilmbuffRich and on at FilmbuffRich on Twitter and Blue Sky. It's been a long weekend. It's been a long 3-day weekend.
Yeah, I got you. We had kids here on Saturday for Jacob's birthday party, Jacob's 9th birthday party. We had a bouncy house till Monday, so basically the kids came back on Sunday. All the kids came back on Sunday. So 2 days in a row, I was in the sun from 10 a.m. till 7. Just in the sun, in the pool, running around, following kids, making sure people weren't killing each other, because that's what 7 and 9-year-olds do. But you can find me, JW. So it's been a long weekend. I'm okay. But you can find me, JW the Movie Guy, on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. I'm everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. But you can find us every week, including next week when we go looking for Rogue Nation and with Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. An incredible scene in the opera coming up. And we'll continue our deep dive into this amazing franchise that, again, in its 8th iteration this week, grossed the franchise high. I
dare say Rogue Nation probably has the best capture of a bad guy at the end of the movie.
Ever
in any franchise.
In any franchise movie. The best, aside from Loki getting beat around like he was a puny god, it is the single greatest capture of a villain ever in a movie. I can say that with all due honesty. We're also it's every Monday 9 p.m. for the most part. Me and Rich will do this, and then Tuesday night you can join us on Loud Nerdy. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you. We'll see everybody on Tuesday night. I'll talk a little bit more about how I feel about Lilo and Stitch. It's weird. I like Stitch, but I like the little girl and I like Stitch, but there's stuff in it that is just, why are we putting this in the kids' movie? Like, just weird. I know kid needs to ask a question about why the government's taking kids. But anyway, thank you for joining us. Everybody have a great night. Stay safe, and we'll see everybody next week for Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Bye-bye.
Bye.